No birds. That's what hits me first. It's 5:42 a.m. Eastern on Monday, November 3rd, 2025, and outside this brick station on the edge of Harrisburg, the streetlights burn into fog that doesn't move, and there isn't a single call from a tree. My name is Miles Carter. I'm on AM 540 and shortwave 7.210 megahertz USB, if you can still tune that fine. The room is cold because the rooftop unit died last night. The thermometer next to the window reads 47 degrees, and I'm counting battery bars like they're the last coins in a pocket. If you can hear me, you are not alone. If you can hear me, this is the signal that hasn't gone quiet yet. I keep a handwritten log so whoever finds this place after me knows how it began for us. The first thing that felt wrong wasn't the news flashes or the sirens. It was the cell towers in Susquehanna Township losing bars in little hiccups, like someone pulling a cord and plugging it back in again and again. Then the traffic lights on Front Street froze all green until a bus took the turn too fast and leaned against a railing. Then the TV station switched to the emergency graphic and never came back. We thought it was a cyber thing, a bad update, a cranky grid, but the shortwave bands were crowded with foreign weather ships calling a storm that wasn't there. And a ham out of Allentown swore he saw streaks over the horizon that didn't look like shooting stars. That was 3 weeks ago. 10 days later, the night turned white for a heartbeat over the Atlantic side, and car alarms went off by themselves. And in the morning, we couldn't reach my brother in Boston. We still can't. I'm going to say what the flyers in the old PSAS never said out loud. It isn't over. That first surge, that cluster of detonations and EMP flashes, that wasn't the end of the hit. This is like being shoved into cold water and then held down. Every hour the power slips a little more. The lights here are fed by a diesel Jenny downstairs that shakes the wall behind me, and I ration it to 2 hours in the morning and 1 in the evening, long enough to charge a bank of lithium packs and kick the transmitter on low power. If you hear the carrier sagging or the voice thinning, that's the inverter throttling itself so we don't brown out and cook a coil. I'll keep it alive. I've got fuel for 6 days if I run it like this. Maybe 7 if I sip. You asked for the first sparks, the things that made us look up. I had a caller from Cleveland, name was Rafe, who said the railroad yard smelled sweet and weird, and then 2 hours later, every sensor truck on I-77 was moving west with lights off like a convoy that didn't want to be seen. A nurse from Baltimore said her badge stopped opening the medication closet. Then the hospital Wi-Fi turned into a blank name with no lock icon. An air traffic controller in training, God bless him, he sounded like a kid, whispered that the scopes had phantom returns slanting in from north-northeast, but the tower log later called it an equipment fault. That afternoon, my NOAA radio started hiccuping same packet over and over, a burst that sounded like glass beads being poured on steel. No official voice, just a checksum, and a line nobody could decode. I wrote it down. It looked like a date and an altitude. If you're near a window, put your hand on the glass. Is it cold? The jet stream's been pulled south, like a belt tugged a notch tighter, and that's why we have this dim, dry chill at dawn. I've got a barometer here, an old aneroid dial with a hairline crack, and it fell fast the day the first city went dark. Later, the wind shifted and came in like breath from a deep freezer. The ash is higher than we think. You can't always see it. But at sunset, it shows as a faint bruise across the sky. If it snows in the next week on the coast, don't be surprised. The ocean is hot at the top and strange things are happening. I said Harrisburg. I should be precise. I'm on the north side, near the river, 2 blocks from a mural of a duck that always made kids laugh. The mural hasn't been tagged because nobody is wasting paint on jokes. I've taped a paper sign to the station's glass door. A M540, shortwave 7.210. Leave notes. I check the box every morning before the generator hour. Sometimes there are names. Sometimes someone leaves a can of beans and writes, "Play weather." We don't have weather maps anymore. We have wind on the face, the smell of creosote, the quietness of an interstate with no trucks. Let me walk through what I've learned from the electricians and the officers and the hams who still pick up when I throw a call. The grid didn't fall like a plate dropping on tile. It broke like a zipper popping teeth. There were strikes, no sense dancing around it, above certain bases, above ports, above city rings. It doesn't matter who fired first to the person trying to find water, but I know you want the shape of it. One insider from a plant near Portsmouth, coast of England, told me their stack monitors went wild right before the phones die. He said their shift lead used the phrase, "prompt gamma," like he was reading it off a card he hoped he'd never need. They cut the line and went to manual, but the city went dark soon after, and he walked home with his boots wrapped in trash bags. He called me once on a wind-up field phone his crew wired to a ham, and he hasn't called back. We used to think the government was a single voice that would tell us where to go. I'm telling you, it is 1,000 voices, and most of them are tired and scared like you. The people in uniforms who still talk to me through the crackle don't pretend this is fine. A National Guard sergeant in York, she gave me her first name, Tasha, said they were told to keep food trucks moving and stop self-evacuations from clogging bridges, but there weren't any trucks after day 4, and the bridges were empty anyway. She said the order to hold came with no fuel allocation. She's keeping 2 Humvees hidden behind a church because thieves started following the sound of engines. That's what escalation looks like. Not a headline. A quiet order with nothing under it, and a good soldier deciding to save her gear for when it matters more. I can hear some of you leaning into the radios right now, wanting me to say who did what. Here's what I have. A physics professor from State College said the early light curves suggested high-altitude airbursts designed to blind rather than crater, at least at first. Later, there were ground hits. We know that because of the pattern of reports, pressure wave glass breakage radiating in rings in Philadelphia and Newark. Then the smell of burning plastic on a scale nothing explains. There are whispers about automated systems and bad data loops. There are whispers about a sub-launched salvo in the North Atlantic. There are whispers about a decapitation strike that missed and started a second ladder. I'll say this much. In the first 48 hours, every official press room read the same paragraph in different voices, and then the rooms went dark. What remains are recorded loop messages on VHF civic channels that tell you to shelter in place and boil water. If your tap coughs brown and stops, if your kettle is cold, because the lines hum with nothing, those words become a kind of mockery. I know. I listen to them too, when the carrier's empty. I keep one rule: no false comfort. That means I will tell you the ugly parts, and I will also tell you the small mercies that are true. Last night, a man walked by the station and slid a Ziploc bag under the door. Inside were 4 AA batteries, a printed map of well pumps in the county, and a note. Take what you need. Pray for Lucy. I don't know who Lucy is, but I said her name out loud. We keep names alive. If you leave a name, I say it. If you leave a message, I read it. That's how we make a shape out of the noise. You asked for eyewitness. I've got lines open on 540 and the patched shortwave return if the skip is kind. The signal is thin right now because the antenna coil has a hairline break and I'm bridging it with a paperclip. If your voice comes through and it warbles, don't hang up. We hear you. We always hear you if you're there. I'll read from handwritten notes first, then take live if the line holds. From Marisol, Camden, New Jersey. We watched the river steam the night the bright came. The power plant on the bend coughed, and then there was this white sheet across the water. In the morning, the supermarket locks were cut, but the shelves were still there. People walked in and stared, and then they walked back out. I took oranges for my kids. I left money in a bowl that somebody put by the window. The money looked like a bad joke. There were no beeps. There was no register tape. My oldest son asked if the planes would come back like birds. I told him yes, but I didn't believe it. From Anwar, Dearborn, Michigan. Fuel line at the old firehouse is guarded by 2 men with rifles who used to work there. They let ambulances in, then they shut the gate. We moved a woman with labored breathing to the front of the line. One of the men whispered that his kid needs insulin. I gave him 2 pens from my cousin's stash. He cried without making noise. He said the radio with the governor's voice is stuck on the same sentence. The sentence is, "Go to your nearest shelter." The shelter is full of folding chairs and no nurses. From Leon, Queens, saw the flash over Jersey. It didn't hit us, not like the movies, but the phones died hard, and the bridge was police at first, and then no police after 3 days. We hear boats at night. Sometimes the boats don't have lights, and they knock into the pilings like they forget how to slow down. The bodega guy sleeps behind his counter with a bat. He still sells coffee if you bring your own cup. We share sugar packets like gold. The studio phone blinks. I'm going to roll my finger onto the hook line and see if we have signal long enough to bring someone in. If you fade, I'll fill from your earlier text. Hold your handset close. Say your first name and where you are. Go ahead. Yeah, this is Zoe. I'm in Dayton. It's cold. Not like winter cold, but like when the AC vents at school ran and you sat under them and your fingers got numb. We heard that right pad was hit on the far side. We don't know anything for sure because the base radio just says stand by. There's a smell when the wind's wrong. People put wet towels under doors. We put pots outside at night to catch water because the tap tastes like pennies now. My mom keeps saying it will clear. She says the city will send trucks. The trucks came once with a guy on a bullhorn. He said stay calm, and then they drove the other way. Zoe, are you safe? I'm in a basement with 3 other families. We taped plastic over the little window. The radio is on a battery that's almost done. My little brother is scared of the silence, so I make up stories about our cat, even though we left him with my aunt across town. I think about the cat a lot. I don't want to say his name because that makes it worse. Zoe, you did right with the plastic and the towels. If you can, set bowls of water where dust settles. The ash will sink. Skim the top. Boil if you can. If not, let it settle longer. Stay low when you can. You're not alone. I'm writing your name in the log. The line drops. It always feels like a small falling elevator when it does. I hold the phone until the hiss gives up, and then I press the cradle and set it down. My hands shake a little because it's always harder when the voice sounds young. There's a page here from a man who didn't give a name. He says he used to work in a federal building in D.C. He says the first 2 days were meetings and video calls, and someone kept saying continuity, and then the 3rd day was moving boxes into a loading bay and putting them into black SUVs with taped-over emblems. He says he asked where they were going, and someone said, Mount Weather, and someone else said, don't write that down. He wrote it down. He left his badge on a desk and walked home across a bridge with 3 other people from his floor. He says he hasn't seen any of them since. I said I'd share what insiders whisper. There's a theory that one side saw the other side's decoys and read them as warheads, and the automatic tree started to walk. There's a theory that a low-orbit platform was blinded and screamed, and a silo woke up. There's a theory that a sub-captain who didn't get a go code and didn't get a no code decided silence meant yes. We will spend years arguing the first 30 minutes, if years are a thing we get. But for the next 30 minutes, I want you to hear a more important instruction. Keep your batteries warm. Put them in your pocket. Cold drains them, and warmth wakes them. Don't waste a charge on light. Use a mirror by a window. If you must go out, go quickly and know why. Leave a note where you sleep that says where you went and when. People are making new habits by the hour. Let one of them be that. I know you want to know about the air. I'm not a scientist. I'm a man with a Geiger counter that was mailed to this station 10 years ago as a joke by a preparedness group. And I'm a man who learned to read it by lamplight with my finger sliding under each word like I did when I was 6. The clicks here are higher than they were last week and lower than they were 2 days ago. That's all I can say. It varies with the wind. It varies when it rains. It goes up when a truck comes through with mud on the fenders and parks near the door. It goes down at noon when the breeze comes off the river. If you have a counter, share your numbers with your neighbor. Don't hoard information. That's worse than hoarding food. Someone asked for a reason to try when the map in your head is full of holes. I told him the reason is people. I told him the reason is voices that don't cut each other off. Yesterday, a man named Curtis from outside Reading said he rigged a pulley system to bring water up from a community well because the hand pump was too heavy for one person. He wrote the instructions on a cereal box and taped it to the handle. Later that day, a woman named Tiana left a stack of chlorine tablets in a Ziploc next to it with a note that said, "Leftovers from the pool, measure carefully." Later, someone penciled on the box, "Boil if you can, tablet if you must, never both at once." That note has more use in it than any speech I've heard in 2 weeks. I should say this before the generator hour dies. If you're on the coast and you still have a line to the inland, tell the inland what the sky looks like at dusk. The ash veils move with the jet, and pilots used to do this for us, but most of them are on the ground and most of the towers are empty. A fisherman from Lewis said the sunsets are a dirty orange that makes the gulls sit down early. A teacher from Scranton said their sunsets look like smudged pencil, and the kids stopped asking to go outside after math. The shape of the evening tells you how the next morning will taste on your tongue. I know we're supposed to keep our mouths shut about tasting the air, but we are animals and we live in the world through our bodies. If the roof tanks at your building still have water, draw from the top. If your water stinks like rotten eggs, let it run if you have pressure, but we know most of you don't. The phone blinks again. I'm going to try to bring another voice in. Go ahead. This is Ron in Omaha. Line's bad. I've got you, Ron. We can hear you. Okay. I work at a warehouse that used to feed big box stores. It's mostly empty now. The guard came once and took pallets. We didn't argue. Last night, a truck convoy rolled by with no headlights, just little red markers taped low. They were quiet, diesel quiet. Not loud like always. They had tarps over the beds, but I could see boxes. Somebody down the line said the boxes were syringes and bandages. Somebody else said it was ammo. We don't know. People stood on their porches and watched. Nobody cheered. Nobody asked for anything. We just watched. The sky to the east looked bruised, not glowing, just wrong. Ron, did you have wind? Yeah, out of the north. Cold, Smelled like plastic. Stay indoors when you can, Ron. Keep your filters simple. Even a t-shirt over the mouth makes you breathe slower. That's something. Copy. He's gone. The line doesn't so much drop as slide away. The tiny red light goes steady again, and I listen to the steady, because it's the one thing that means we're still up. I want to tell you about a man named Harold, because I didn't like him before any of this, and now he is the reason the tower still stands. He's the kind of person who would call the station about the way the anchors said a street name, and he once argued with me for 10 minutes about whether this frequency had been better at night in 1987. He's also the person who climbed the ladder in the storm 2 nights ago when a sleeve of Cokes shook itself loose and snapped against the mast. He climbed with a headlamp and a leather belt tied to the rung and his old work gloves, and the wind pushed him sideways like he weighed nothing. He clipped the line back in and slid down into the puddle by the coil box and cried for a second where he thought I couldn't see him. Then he wiped his face and said, "We should check the guy wires. If you have a Harold where you are, forgive him for being the kind of man who corrects the map, because when the map burns, he is the one who will walk the road and tell you where it turns." Okay, the battery meter says 28%. When it hits 25, I will switch to the smaller transmitter and you'll hear me thinner. Before I do that, I want to talk about hospitals and the way they're devolving. If you have a medical emergency and you're within reach of a place with a cross on it, know this. The ER may still open doors, but the real work is in a tent out back, and the tent's rules are different. Bring your own tape. Bring your own gauze. Bring your own flashlight. If you come with a fever and a cough, they will tell you to go home because they have people with burns and broken bones, and that will feel cruel. But this is triage. If you know how to clean a wound, teach your neighbor. If you know how to use a pressure bandage, show people. If you have a first aid book, lend it. If you have a skill, write it on a card and pin it to your coat when you go out, so people know where to bring questions. I fix boots. I know where there's a hand pump. I can sharpen knives. This is how towns are being born again out of what's left, even if they don't call themselves towns yet. I need to say a name. Casey, Philadelphia. He called 2 days ago and said he was going to try to find his mother on the other side of the river. He said the ferry wasn't running, so he was going to walk the bridge at dawn. He said if the city guards were there, he'd hand them his backpack and ask them to check it. He promised. He promised into my ear, like I was his father. He hasn't called back. If you hear this, Casey, say the word maple into the line and hang up. That's all. I'll know you're breathing. I don't need a speech, just a leaf. You wanted signs of panic. In my neighborhood, panic wasn't screaming. It was doors closing very softly. It was a dog left tied to a porch with a bowl of water under a chair. It was the cash drawer at the diner, left wide open with a note that said, "Take what you need, leave what you can." And nothing in it, because everyone figured someone else had already taken it. It was a man walking down the center of the road, carrying a car battery in both hands, like he thought if he held it level, the lights would come back on. It was a woman standing in the middle of the grocery aisle, reading a recipe from a phone that didn't light up and laughing once, a short sound, then putting the phone in her coat and taking beans. Martial law is not something that happens with a drumbeat. It is a tired sergeant at a folding table with a box of glow sticks and a clipboard with a list of streets that will be patrolled as time allows. It is a curfew announced on a battery-powered bullhorn Nobody hears because the batteries die by the third block. It is a rumor that your neighbor can't leave after dusk because their name is on a list, and then you find them on their stoop anyway, and they shrug. It is 3 truckloads of men in mismatched uniforms driving fast past the pharmacy, and 2 of them wave like this is a parade, and one of them stares at you with dark eyes you will dream about. The rules are simple. Stay in when you can. Share in daylight. Hide your light at night. Keep your voice calm when a young man with a weapon asks you a question. He is somebody's child. He is scared. Keeping your voice steady is the difference between a hard night and a bad night. All right? The smaller transmitter is live. If you're losing me on 540, nudge your dial and squint at the sound. On 7.210 USB, I'm a ghost at this hour, but sometimes the skip throws me into Ohio and Tennessee like a rock skipping on a pond. If you hear me there, knock twice on the mic and I'll know you're in the loop. I am tired. I want to be honest about that. I slept in the production room on a carpet that smells like spilled coffee and old dust. I woke up because the building popped from the cold. I thought it was a knock at the glass. I dreamed of a kitchen light turning on and nobody at the switch. I have a can of peaches in the drawer that I haven't opened because it feels like a birthday present, and I am saving it for when I really need to remember sweetness. I keep thinking about how I used to complain about traffic on the bridge, and now I would pay the last bill in my wallet to hear a horn. But there are still reasons to get up and turn the dial to transmit. The reasons are the voices I can still write down. The reasons are you. Let me read you a thing from a scientist who refused to say his name but said I could call him North Street because that's where he used to park to go to the lab. He wrote, "Radiation is not a ghost. It is a number. Numbers go down with distance and time. Shelter is distance. Time is mercy. Stay inside if the numbers are high. Go out only when you need to, and come back. Food in sealed cans is your friend. Dirt on shoes is the enemy. Put the shoes in a box by the door. Wipe the box. Breathe slow. Tell your children the truth, but give them jobs to do, so they don't only sit and listen for the next bad sound." Another paper from a soldier who didn't say where he was. "We have food caches at mile markers, you know. You think we don't keep that info tight, but it's leaking. Don't try to find them. You'll meet the wrong men with the wrong idea. Better to plant a 5-gallon bucket in your yard and use it as a filter." He wrote the steps simple and clean, like he taught people who didn't speak much of his language before. Pebbles, sand, charcoal, cloth. Pour slow. Wait. Do it again. He didn't say his name, but he drew a little star next to the word wait, and I liked him for that. The sun will be up in an hour. It won't look like the sun you remember. It will come through a thin veil and make the world feel like it's under wax paper. That's okay. Let it rise. When it does, and if you must go out, keep a list of what you are going for. Do not add to the list. If someone asks you to pick up something that will make you zigzag, say no. The new rule is straight lines and short steps. If you have chalk, write arrows for yourself on the sidewalk. If that feels foolish, remember that pilots used to fly by lines on paper, and now the paper is your block. I need to make space for one more call before I cold switch the generator and roll to battery for the rest of the hour. The red light is blinking. We have a live line. Go ahead. This is Pastor Will in Charleston, West Virginia. If anyone from my block hears this, we will meet at noon in the church basement. We have a hand pump and a stove. Bring a pot. If you have children, come early. If you have elders, bring them. If you're alone, come anyway. If you've done something you're ashamed of in the last 2 weeks, come anyway. We will hand out soup. It's not much, but it's hot. We will not talk about who took what from where. We will talk about how to keep the little ones warm. Pastor Will, thank you. What street? Lee and Quarrier. The bricks are cracked, but the door opens. If the door is shut, we'll have a sign with chalk. If the chalk washes off, knock twice slow, once fast. God keep you, Pastor. I'll take help from anywhere. The line goes. I write the cross streets. If you're within 2 miles and your legs are strong, 2 miles is a morning's walk, and 2 miles back is an afternoon's, but only if you go steady and you don't stop to argue with fear. Before I kill the Jenny, I'll say this to anyone in charge who has a microphone left. If you tell us to shelter in place, tell us how long and what thresholds matter. If you say boil water, tell us how to boil without power. If you say help is coming, say from where, and say how many trucks, and say how we will know your trucks from someone else's. Speak in sentences with numbers we can hold. There are smart people on every block. We can carry hard truth. What breaks people is vague. Okay, I'm switching. 3, 2-. I'm back on battery. If the voice sounds thinner, that's the little MOSFET rig and a wire antenna taped to the blinds. It will get the job done. I'll be here until the meter says stop. When it does, I'll go down the stairwell with a flashlight and crank the generator once more. If it coughs and doesn't catch, I'll try again. If it doesn't catch after that, I'll say out loud, I tried, and then I'll walk to the box on the door and see who left a note. I live on hope the way a flame lives on oxygen. It's thin, but it feeds me. I'm going to read several short messages before we lose the top of the hour. Ethan, Tulsa. We thought the sirens were a test. Then the second siren never stopped. I took the kids to the laundry room because it's in the middle. We played a game where you breathe in slow, 4 beats, hold, 4 beats, out, 4 beats. It helped. Do that if you're scared. Rui, Newark. Port cranes are still and look like big praying things. Barges sit wrong on the water. We take bikes to get around. The cops tell us to be home by dark. We pretend to listen, and then we listen because we're tired. Alma, Albuquerque. The radio here is thin in the morning but fat at night. We can hear Mexico City sometimes. They say similar words. They say the same kind of quiet. If you hear me, we are praying for you, even if we don't know how to pray. I paused to breathe because I realized I was starting to talk too fast, and that makes people's hearts race. I want to keep you steady, not pour gasoline on the fear. I put my hand flat on the desk because it steadies me. The desk is scratched with the names of DJs who used to think the worst thing that could happen was a dead mic. I trace the name, Tina 2003, with my finger, and I feel like I know her, although I never will. If you are new to this frequency and you're wondering how to find it again, write it on your wrist with a marker. AM 540, shortwave 7.210 USB. The USB matters. If you put LSB, I'll sound like a robot falling downstairs. Program it if your rig still has memory. If you have a wind-up set, crank it slow and steady. If you have a solar panel the size of a notebook, angle it to the southeast this morning. Every watt counts. I would argue that the new currency is not gold or bullets. It's watts and clean water and calm people who can think under pressure. I should tell you a small, happy thing, because those matter. Yesterday, a kid named Marco left a bundle of rosemary sprigs in the box. He wrote, "Smell this if you get sad." I crushed one leaf, and the room smelled like the kitchen in a house I once lived in where the window faced a tree with a robin's nest. For 30 seconds, I was not in a bunker with a rattling generator and a paperclip holding an antenna together. I was a man who could walk to a store for bread and come back without looking over his shoulder. Then the smell faded, and I was here again. And that was okay, because it gave me enough to do another hour. If you have something that smells like a good memory, that's worth more than you know. A bar of soap, an orange peel, pine needles. Save those like treasure. The top of the hour is creeping in, and I don't have a tone to mark it. I'll mark it with my voice. 6 o'clock Eastern. If you're in Chicago, subtract 1. If you're in Denver, subtract 2. If you're in LA, subtract 3. If you are somewhere else entirely, pick your own anchor. Time is slippery now that the towers don't push it into our pockets. We have to make our own. I'll stay with you. The next hour will be more calls if the line holds, more notes if the box is kind, and more small rules we learn the hard way. If you can, write down your street and your need and your skill and slide it here. If you can't come, speak your name into the night and know I wrote it down in ink. My name is Miles Carter, north side of Harrisburg, AM 540, shortwave 7.210 USB. If you lose me, scan slow. If the signal fades, wait a minute and it might climb back like a breath. And if you are alone in a room, you are not alone. Your voice is part of this now. Breathe in, hold, breathe out. You are still here, so am I. Say your name, then say someone else's. Then if you can, go fill a pot. We'll talk again in a minute. It's still dark outside, but the horizon glows like the inside of a dying ember, dull orange, fading at the edges. It's 6:27 a.m. now. The fog hasn't lifted. The street's empty except for a paper cup that's been rolling back and forth in the gutter for the last 10 minutes, clicking every time it hits a pebble. I used to hate small sounds like that. Now, I hold on to them like proof that the world hasn't stopped breathing. I just came back from the stairwell. The generator started on the second pull. Thank God. I opened the door to the street for a moment, just to listen. The air felt heavy, not smoky. Heavier, like the weight you feel before a storm. There's no bird sound still, not even the crows. Somewhere far off, maybe 6 blocks, I heard a metal door slam. That's it. Harrisburg sounds like an unplugged refrigerator. I found a note in the box by the glass. It's damp at the edges and written on notebook paper with the kind of soft pencil that fades when you breathe on it. It says, "If anyone hears this, we're heading west. There's talk of a safe zone near Pittsburgh. The air there's cleaner, they say. We've got a pickup, 2 tanks left, and we're taking 11. There's room for 2 people if they can walk. Kayla and Devin. Kayla and Devin, if you're still close enough to hear me, keep your lights low after dusk. Don't stop on bridges. If you see broken down cars with their doors open and no one inside, move fast and quiet. Not because of people, because of residue. You'll see dust settled in seat seams, pale gray, like snow that never melts. Don't touch it. Keep cloth over your mouth. People have been asking how far this thing spread. How many cities? How many hits? I don't have a number, but I can give you fragments from voices that do. A man named Eli from Boise came through last night on Skip. He said the northern sky flashed twice last week, one bright, one faint, and 2 days later their power grid flickered, then stayed off. He said they've got a dam running turbines but no line to send the power anywhere. He said they use that electricity now just to light a church basement where the town eats together. He said the mountains echo at night. Not thunder, not planes, just echo. Like sound bouncing between ridges that don't have enough life left to hold it. He said, if you talk too loud outside, your voice feels swallowed. Eli said he heard from a pilot who got one small craft up for reconnaissance, a bush plane, short range. He saw what used to be Salt Lake City. Said the water had gone black, thick with floating ash. The Great Salt Lake's shoreline moved 10 miles inward, he said. The pilot circled twice, then came home shaking. They drained his fuel line and found grains of something metallic in the filter. Eli didn't say what it was. He didn't need to. The scientists, the few still writing, say this was always a chain reaction of misreadings. Someone called it algorithmic paranoia. The phrase makes me sick because it means machines got scared before humans did. And they were faster. A radar ping, a misaligned signal, a storm cloud mistaken for a launch bloom. Everything else was math. A computer somewhere thought we were already gone, so it made sure of it. If that's true, it's not just war. It's feedback, the kind that turns your mic to screeching when it hears itself too long. Only this time, the planet's the speaker. The phone's blinking again. I'll take it. Go ahead. Hello? This is Aaron, down in Knoxville. I don't know how long the line will hold. We've got people burning scrap to cook. The smell's bad. There's dust everywhere, and when it rains, it turns to paste. My brother says the university's reactor's been sealed, but nobody knows if that matters. I just wanted to ask, are there still planes? We hear engines sometimes, but they don't sound right. Like not jet engines, not rotors either. What are they? Aaron, I've heard those too. Out here, they come after midnight. Low hum, steady, but no navigation lights. Some say they're drones, uncrewed survey craft checking radiation patterns. Some say they're cargo haulers on autopilot, looping endlessly because the humans meant to land them never got the message. Others think they're human, refugees with whatever tech survived, using dark runs to move between zones. Whatever they are, stay inside when you hear them. Don't flash lights. Don't try to signal. It's not that they're hostile. It's that nobody knows who's behind the controls anymore. Aaron? Still here. Keep your people low when those pass. If you can, sleep underground. Cover vents with damp towels. It helps. Thank you. He's gone. People keep asking for government signals. I'll be straight. I don't think there's one voice left in charge. But there are fragments. 2 nights ago, a listener in Maine picked up a coded burst on 6.872 megahertz, repeating in 30-minute intervals. It used the old FEMA prefix, followed by coordinates off the coast. Some hams think it's an automatic station, maybe a buoy, maybe an offshore relay still alive by solar. If anyone near the coast can confirm, do it. If you can decode, even better. Someone else sent me a transcript from an Air Force channel, half scrambled, but I caught this. Unit Echo 9. Maintain holding pattern. Negative landing zones east of Allegheny. Repeat. Negative. That means they're airborne somewhere, but negative landing zones. That's what makes my stomach twist. That means the ground below them isn't safe to touch. I keep a map on the wall. Thumbtacks for each confirmed blackout. Red for total silence. Blue for partial. It looks like the map's bleeding westward. Chicago's flickered. Half power reported 3 days ago. Now, nothing. Denver's still there. Barely. One station playing looped hymns. San Antonio went off yesterday morning, and I don't think it was planned. I'm looking at that map right now, and what scares me most isn't the red pins. It's the spaces with no pins, the ones we haven't heard from at all. That silence feels worse than the noise. The clock's ticking too loud now. You know that sound when your heart beats in your ear? That's what it feels like in here. I keep the light dim so I don't see the empty chair across from me. The one that used to belong to my producer. He left on day 5, said he'd head south, find his sister in Richmond. He said he'd be back by the weekend. I still keep a mic live for him, just in case. Sometimes I glance at it and think I see the light flicker, but it's just my eyes tricking me. There's one message I haven't read yet. It came through last night on the teletype printer we rigged to the backup battery. The paper's crumpled but still legible. It's stamped Field Station 43, Confidential Relay. I don't know how it reached us. Here's what it says. Containment protocol failed in northeastern sectors. Advisories for movement west remain valid. Maintain potassium intake. Avoid open precipitation. Radiation monitoring incomplete. Civil defense assets redeploying from urban sectors to highland facilities. Civil order breakdown confirmed in 5 of 7 regions. That's it. No signature. Just that. If it's real, then we are officially abandoned. If it's fake, someone went to a lot of trouble to make it sound real. Either way, it means we're on our own. The generator hiccuped just now. It's starting to surge. That usually means the fuel line's choking on air. I'll risk it another few minutes. There's a rhythm to surviving this. And it's not courage, it's pacing. Wake, listen, move, eat, check the sky, sleep if you can. Panic is expensive. Don't spend it all at once. I'll read another call log while I still have charge. Janine, Pittsburgh. We saw something last night. Orange streaks moving slow across the north. Too slow for meteors. No sound. They faded after 10 seconds. Then the power flickered. The radio station 101.1 stopped mid-song. We heard static, then someone crying, then nothing. Are we next? Janine, if you're still there, those weren't new strikes. They're high-altitude reflection bands, radiation particles catching sunlight beyond the veil. They look alive, but they're just light bending in debris. It's strange, I know, but you can take comfort in that. Sometimes the sky's ghosts are only echoes. Another one. Miguel, Fresno. Power's gone, but the fields still burn. We sleep in cars. My wife's pregnant. Is it safe here? Miguel, I can't lie to you. If you're near those fires, move. The wind off burning fields carries more than smoke. It carries toxins that cling to skin. Go north if you can, into the foothills. If you can't move far, dig low. Cars trap heat. Tents are better. Use plastic sheeting if you find any. Don't let her breathe open air during the day. You start realizing how much of life was built on the assumption of background hum, the fridge, the heater, the planes overhead. Take those away, and every cough feels like thunder. Every footstep sounds like an announcement. It's almost 7 now. I can see the first smear of gray over the rooftops. The light makes everything look like paper. Colorless. Thin. The river's calm. There's a smell of iron. I used to love mornings. There's something I need to admit before I move on. Yesterday, for the first time, I thought about leaving this mic. Just walking. North, maybe. Following the river until I couldn't. But then the call from Zoe came, and the note from Kayla and Devin. And I realized the airwaves are the last thing holding threads between people who will never meet. This frequency is a bridge no army can blow, so I'm staying. If you're listening, if you can still write, I need reports. Temperature, sky color, wind direction, food sources. Not stories, data. Because that's what we've lost. Pattern. If we can find any pattern left, maybe we can see a path through this. And if you're somewhere safe, even for an hour, speak it. Let someone else borrow that calm. We trade hope now, the way we used to trade currency. I'll take another call. This is Thomas from Des Moines. I've been listening for a week. You're the only voice that doesn't sound like a recording. My town's quiet. Too quiet. The power's been dead, but the nights glow faint green, like the sky's got fireflies. I don't know what that means. We tried to drive south, but the roads are cracked, like they melted and refroze. We heard people say we shouldn't drink from the river. What do we do? Thomas, that glows from ionized dust, fallout mixing with humidity. It'll fade in days if rain doesn't come. Stay indoors at night. Cover your windows with foil or anything reflective. As for water, dig shallow wells if you can. Top layers safer than open flow. And if you have charcoal, even from burnt wood, filter it through cloth. It's not perfect, but it's something. He starts to cry. Not loud. Just that sound of someone breathing wrong through tears. I tell him to hold on, to keep talking, to name something he still loves. He says, cornfields. I say, then remember them. He hangs up. I'm going to stop for a second. Let the air hum. Sometimes silence between words is the only thing that reminds me I'm still real. If you're tuning in late, this is Miles Carter, north side of Harrisburg, broadcasting on AM 540 and shortwave 7.210. The world is quieter than it's ever been, but we are still here. I'll keep going, as long as I can draw breath and the lights blink on this panel. If you hear me, write. If you can't write, remember. It's 7:03 a.m. now. Day 15 since the world blinked out. And somehow, against all math and all reason, we're still talking. 7:41 a.m. The fog's thinning, but it's the wrong color. Pale brown like dust filtered through light. I can finally see the river. It doesn't shimmer anymore. It just sits there, flat and gray, like melted glass. The bridge is empty. There used to be a digital billboard at the far end that flashed weather updates. Now it's frozen on a half-loaded ad for a car nobody can afford to drive anymore. I can hear the generator coughing downstairs. Steady for now. I poured the last half-gallon of diesel into it an hour ago. That means I've got maybe 9 more hours of power if I stretch it. After that, it's batteries. And when those are gone, I'll do what the old operators did. Hand crank the field set, 1 turn per word, until my arm gives out. A letter came this morning. Someone slid it under the door before dawn. It's written in black marker on the back of a food box, letters slanted like they were shaking while writing. We're in Steelton. Half our street's gone, houses burned, roofs caved, but the basements still hold. We made 1 big shelter out of 4 cellars. Got 12 people in here, 5 kids, no water pressure. We melt ice from the gutters. If anyone out there can read this, don't head south. Interstates blocked by wrecks, and some of them glow at night. My husband saw soldiers last week near the scrapyard. They didn't stop, just drove fast with the headlights off. Tell people to stay underground. Mara, if you're hearing me, thank you. I'm saying your name out loud. I'm marking Steelton on the map with green tape. You're still here. People keep asking what day it really is. I stopped marking the calendar after day 12 because the days all blend. So, for whoever's counting, This is day 15 since the first flashes. Day 10 since the president's voice cut off mid-sentence, and day 7 since the last confirmed satellite feed. Everything since has been rumor. Here's what I know for sure. The East Coast grid is gone. Not flickering. Gone. Every substation past Philadelphia is cold. The Midwest is running on fragments. Local generators, microgrids, whatever solar panels survived the EMP. The western states, if they're still intact, aren't talking. Every westbound relay goes silent around Kansas City. Some hams out of Montana say they caught a weak Canadian emergency broadcast 2 nights ago. The signal said, "Emergency shelters active north of Winnipeg." It looped 4 times, then cut. That's all. There's a theory from a physics team in Denver, before their line dropped, that the upper atmosphere is now full of ionized particles from the detonations. They think that's what's distorting radio skip patterns. That's why shortwave signals bend and bounce weirdly now, why voices echo seconds after they speak. That's not ghosts. It's the world's ceiling bending light and sound. I wish I could tell you the air was safe, but the Geiger counter says otherwise. The clicks are faster this morning, 30 per minute when I hold it near the window, 15 near the floor. That's low enough to survive, but not low enough to forget. I'm going to read a few transmissions that came through last night over Morse from a relay in Ohio. The operator signs his messages Redwood. He said they've set up a field camp near Old Route 40 with solar rigs and a water purifier. They have 3 working trucks and a small radio tower. He said anyone heading their way should bring batteries, medicine, and wire. Apparently, they're stringing copper to connect nearby towns. He ended with, "We'll build something, even if it's small." That line hit me harder than it should have. We'll build something, even if it's small. Because that's the only way we've ever fixed things. Piece by piece, nail by nail, light bulb by light bulb. I'll take a call now. Line 2's blinking. Go ahead. Yeah, hey. My name's Travis. I'm calling from Baltimore County. We've got a few of us holed up in a school gym. 40, maybe 50 people. Food's low, but we're managing. I've been listening for days, man. I just wanted to ask, do you think anyone's still in charge? Like, actual command? Travis, that's the question everyone's whispering. The short answer? I think pieces of command still exist, but they're blind. I've caught encrypted military bursts, short, clipped, identical syntax, on 9.745 megahertz. That means automated systems are still running. But as for people giving those orders, that's harder. When Washington went dark, backup continuity centers were supposed to activate in Denver and Mount Weather. The Denver relay went offline 6 days ago. Mount Weather, we don't know. But I'll tell you this, somewhere, someone is still transmitting coded heartbeat pings every 30 minutes from a bunker under the Appalachians. I've heard them. So yeah, someone's still alive. Travis says, "You think we should wait? You should hold ground while you can. Waiting isn't the same as giving up. Build walls, boil water, keep radio discipline. That's your command now. That's how we lead when no one else will." "Copy that," he says. Then the line fades. There's a sound outside now. Wind, finally. The first real gust I've heard in days. It's pushing papers against the glass. My own notes fluttering like weak flags. The wind smells metallic, dry. There's no rain in it, just grit. I think it's carrying ash from the east. I found a cassette in the drawer this morning. One of the old PSAs this station used to run during tornado season. The label reads, Civil Defense Test, 2004. I almost played it, just for the comfort of hearing another voice. But I couldn't. The idea of a recorded calm voice telling people to remain indoors feels cruel now. We don't need calm. We need real. Let me read another letter. This is Sarah from Allentown. My father's old transistor picked up your voice last night. We listened by candlelight. It felt like the world had shrunk to this little speaker. We've started writing everything you say down, like it's gospel. We trade pages with neighbors. We don't know if it helps, but it makes us feel human. Thank you. Sarah, if you're still writing, keep those pages. They'll matter. Someday someone will need to know how this felt, not the official version, not the political one, but the human one. There's another message from someone calling himself Vector. Probably a ham alias. He said he intercepted traffic from an unmanned drone in New Mexico transmitting weather telemetry. That means at least one defense satellite is still functional, still sending data to something on the ground. He said the drone's altimeter was normal, but its GPS timestamp was 2 minutes off. That sounds small, but it means global synchronization failed. Atomic clocks desynced. That's why GPS and radio drift. We're living in a world where even time is fraying, and people wonder why their watches can't agree. 7:52 a.m. now. The light's brighter, but weak, like the world's running on half voltage. The river looks frozen, but it's not cold enough for that. It's just thick. I can't tell if it's chemical film or silt. A car drifts by sometimes, no sound, just tires on grit, then nothing for another hour. I want to tell you about a sound that woke me last night. A low thud, like thunder. The building shook. I thought it was nearby, but then I saw light, distant, toward the east. Not a blast, more like a flare. Someone still fighting or testing or signaling. It made me think about how many people are still out there trying to make their presence known. Even a flare is a kind of prayer. Here's something that keeps me steady. Counting. Each hour I draw a line on the wall, not to track days, but to remind myself that time is still moving forward, that it hasn't stopped in its tracks. If you're doing the same, keep your marks, even if they're just scratches on wood. The world needs proof that we kept count. It's nearly 8. I'll keep this transmitter hot until the battery light hits red, then cycle it down. Before I go, I'll read 2 final notes. Jules from Chicago, still alive, hiding in a basement near the loop. Sky glows red at night. Heard helicopters 2 nights ago. Not military, too small. They hovered over the river, then left. No power. Radio weak. Tell others Chicago breathes. David from Raleigh. We built a wind rig from scrap fans. It charges 1 light bulb for 2 hours a night. It's enough to see my daughter's face. That's all we need. I pause there because my throat's tight. It's strange how hope sounds heavier than despair now. I'll close this hour with 1 line, for anyone who still doubts they matter. As long as your voice can reach another ear, you're winning. That's the rule. This is Miles Carter, AM 540 Harrisburg. If you hear static, that's me switching circuits. Stay tuned, stay low, stay human. I'll be back after the next fuel cycle. 8:14 a.m. The power just flickered again, once. Enough to make the lights hum and die. I'm on the backup now. The window's cracked open to let the smell of diesel out, and the air coming in feels colder than it should. It's early November, but it feels like midwinter. I can see my breath if I hold still. The thermometer on the wall reads 41 degrees. It's strange how fast the world cools when there's no grid humming beneath it. Every home, every office, Every car used to give off just enough waste heat to keep the air soft. Now the cold presses in. Even the concrete seems to give up warmth. I can hear the wind again, steady this time. It's blowing from the southeast, which means the ash from the coast is drifting inland. If you're anywhere between Philadelphia and Pittsburgh, close your vents and windows. The fine dust from the Atlantic strike sites is light enough to travel hundreds of miles. You can't always see it, but it sticks to glass, to your tongue, to the hairs on your arm. Wash it off. Don't let it stay on your skin. I'm reading reports from hams across what's left of the East Coast. A relay operator in Roanoke says the Shenandoah Valley is still habitable. Springs there still run clear, and a group of locals has set up a communal signal calling itself Blue Ridge 1. They broadcast twice a day at 7.015 megahertz with coordinates for safe wells and food caches. If you have range, listen for a slow beeping tone followed by 2 words. Water south. That's them. Someone else in Delaware sent me an encoded message through packet radio last night. It took 2 hours to decode on my old laptop, but I got most of it. It said a convoy of military trucks passed Dover heading west toward the mountains, loaded with sealed containers and mobile reactors. That means one thing. Whoever's left is consolidating inland, moving deep. That's good and bad. Good because someone's still thinking long term. Bad because they've decided the coasts are dead. The government's silence isn't incompetence, it's triage. I used to get angry about that. Now I understand. When you can't save everyone, you save what you can reach. Someone left me a note on the glass door in chalk. We can hear you. Keep talking. That's all it said. I will. Last night, around midnight, the shortwave bands started acting strange. There were rhythmic pulses on 8.210 megahertz, repeating every 4 seconds. Too uniform to be natural, too faint to trace. A few hams think it's a surviving naval transmitter, maybe an automated distress beacon from a submarine stuck beneath the North Atlantic. It could be looping its emergency ping forever, waiting for a surface command that'll never come. Imagine that. A machine trapped under miles of dark water, still asking if anyone's out there. I guess that's what all of us are doing in our own way. The phone line's flashing. I'll take it. Go ahead. This is Henry. I'm in Columbus. We've been hearing loud sounds from the south, not like explosions, more like rumbling, real low, like thunder that doesn't end. People are scared. Some say it's new strikes. Others say it's the mountains moving. Do you know anything? Henry, I've heard similar reports. That rumbling isn't new blasts, it's atmospheric distortion. The upper air currents are carrying sound differently now. When the pressure drops hard and the ash layers shift, noise can travel hundreds of miles. You might be hearing aftershocks from detonations near Atlanta, or even from Tennessee. The sound's bending across the jet stream. It feels close, but it's not. Still, keep underground when it happens. The pressure changes can stir up fallout. How long will it last? Nobody knows. Maybe days, maybe months. But if it's any comfort, when the rumble fades, the air steadies. That's when it's safest to move. He breathes heavy on the other end. We lost power 2 days ago. We're using candles. People are breaking into pharmacies for medicine. I got kids. I pause before answering. Henry, keep your family close. Don't go out after dark. Use 1 candle at a time. Ventilate just enough to keep air fresh. And if anyone comes to your door saying they're with an aid convoy, ask for a code word. The real ones will have one. What word? They'll say signal. You say steady. That's how you'll know they're listening to this broadcast. He exhales, a shaky sound that feels like relief. Then the line goes dead. It's quiet again. Too quiet. I keep thinking about something my father used to say. He worked power lines in the 80s. He said, "Electricity is just organized lightning. When it leaves, it takes order with it." I didn't understand that until now. Without it, everything's slower, colder, smaller. Time itself feels different. You count in hours instead of minutes. The paper log on my desk is full now. I've started writing on the wall. A report from Detroit came through the Morse net just before dawn. They said Lake Erie's receding, wind patterns pushing surface water north, fish washing up dead along the banks. The smell's unbearable. But the good news? The city's northern neighborhoods are organizing. Someone named Hattie is broadcasting from an old museum basement. She's turned the planetarium into a shelter. She says they have light from backup batteries and a solar rig salvaged from the roof. They host silent hours every night, where everyone sits together without speaking, just listening to the hum of the planet. I don't know why, but that thought makes me feel something I can't name. Maybe that's hope. Maybe that's grief. Maybe they're the same thing now. The counter clicks. 40 per minute. That's high, but not lethal. I close the window. The air smells like damp paper. There's another message here, scrawled on cardboard, written in pen that bled. To whoever's speaking from Harrisburg, we're heading west on foot. We've seen flares in the distance every night, same color, blue-white. Not random. They go in pairs. Anyone know what that means? Blue-white flares usually mean distress, not signaling. Could be survivors marking safe zones. Could be decoys. Hard to say. If you see them, don't go toward them unless you're sure. The safest light right now is none at all. 8:33 a.m. now. The sunlight coming through the windows a weak gray yellow. It makes everything look faded, like an old photograph left in the rain. I keep catching myself listening for music between calls. You ever do that? When a silence gets long enough that your brain fills it with a tune? Mine's an old one. Simon and Garfunkel's The Only Living Boy in New York. It plays in my head at half speed, warped like a tape left in a hot car. I can't stop it. The next message is from Dr. L. No location. He says he worked in a biolab before the blackout. He warns that radiation isn't the only concern. He says exposure weakens immune systems, and dormant microbes in soil could resurface once the frost hits. He says to wear gloves when gardening or digging for water. I don't know if he's real, but it sounds reasonable. Another call's coming through. I'll take it. Hello? Yeah, this is June from outside Richmond. We've been listening. My husband's sick. Not radiation burns, fever. We don't have antibiotics. We've been boiling everything. What do we do? June, I'm not a doctor, but do what you're already doing. Boil what you can. Isolate him if possible. Make sure he drinks. Fever's dangerous, but not always deadly. Keep him cool with damp cloths. Don't waste your strength panicking. If he gets worse, breathing shallow, lips turning blue, open the windows for air, even if it's cold. Okay. He keeps asking if it's over. I don't know what to tell him. Tell him we're still here. Sometimes that's enough. She whispers something. Sounds like thank you. Then static. That's what this has turned into. A world where saying you're still here is the closest thing we have to medicine. 8:47 a.m. I glance out the window again. A truck's parked crooked at the intersection. 2 people are standing beside it, both in heavy coats, faces hidden. One's holding a pole with cloth tied to it. white, or maybe just dirty gray. They're staring up at the station tower. I can't tell if they're listening or just curious. After a minute, they get back in the truck and drive off. No plates. Every time I see someone moving, I feel two things at once: relief and fear. Relief that someone else is alive. Fear that survival might make us strangers to each other. I've been thinking about faith lately. Not religion, just faith in the idea that sunrise still matters. I don't pray, but sometimes I talk to the transmitter like it's a friend. I thank it for working. I apologize when it clips my voice. I treat it like a fragile thing that's keeping me connected to everything I love. Maybe that's worship. The phone's blinking again. Go ahead. Hey, this is Drew. I'm in Akron. We found an old school bus, painted the windows black, stocked it with supplies. We're thinking of driving north toward the lake. You think that's safe? Drew, depends on your route. The Great Lakes area has mixed readings. Radiation pockets near Erie, lower near Superior. If you've got fuel and filters, keep windows sealed and stop only when you must. If you find snow, test it with a paper towel. If it stains brown, don't touch it. If it melts clean, it's probably safe. Copy that. Thanks, man. You're keeping us sane out here. I nod even though he can't see me. That's what this frequency's for. He hangs up. I wish I could see what these people look like. The ones whose voices keep cutting through the static. Each of them probably sitting in a dark room, hunched over a dying radio, hands shaking, listening to a stranger talk like the world's still worth saving. 8:56 a.m. The clock ticks. I'm running out of things to read. The silence between transmissions feels heavier now, like the pauses are growing teeth. I'll end this hour with one last note, found scrawled on a napkin taped to the front door. If anyone hears this, don't give up on the morning. It still comes, even when it shouldn't. I'll take that to heart. This is Miles Carter, AM 540 Harrisburg, shortwave 7.210. Still here, still talking.